This video will deal with problem 5.5 from Gapenski's Healthcare Finance 5th edition. 5.5 starts with giving us some information about a urgent walk-in care clinic that we're thinking about starting. We're assuming 10,000 visits, and so first we can calculate what our revenue per visit is going to be. It's going to be 400,000 at 10,000 visits, so that means we get $40 per visit. Then it tells us that everything except for the two supply costs are fixed. So this is our fixed costs. So fixed costs are going to equal $257,500 if you add that up. So add these up, that'll come out to $257,500. Variable cost is going to be 60. So variable cost per unit, right, and this is revenue per unit, I should have said, is going to be 60 divided by 10 or 6. So therefore, a contribution margin per unit is 40 minus 6 or 34. Per visit. Okay. So this is going to be a for-profit venture, so we're going to have to calculate taxes. So what we're going to do is calculate our pre-tax or taxable income, then we'll calculate taxes, and then we'll add on profit or get to profit. That's the only difference between this problem and the prior several that we've done. So starting our P&L, revenue is $40 per visit, right, times 10,000 visits gives us $400,000. Variable cost is $6 per visit times 10,000 gives us $60,000. Our contribution margin is $34 per visit. At 10,000, that's going to give us $340,000. Our fixed costs are $257,500. So our taxable income is going to be 340 minus 257. So 340 minus 257,500 gives us 82,500. And then now that is going to be taxed at a 30% rate. So taxes will be 82,500 times 0.3. That's going to give us taxes of 24,750. And so our profit is 82,500, 57,750. Okay, so that is part A. What number of visits is required to break even? Well, at break even, we would have we would have total revenue equals total cost, so therefore we would have no taxable income. So it's actually a slightly simpler problem. And if you remember, as I've said a couple of times in prior problems, right? So that's total cost equals total revenue. You can extract out of this the break-even volume is going to be the fixed cost divided by the contribution margin. So if the fixed costs are 257,500 divided by the contribution margin of 34, 257,500 divided by 34 gives us break-even volume of 7,573. So part C asks, how many visits would we have to get in order to have an after-tax profit of 100,000? Okay, so in some of the prior problems, we figured out that in order to get a profit, we had to treat profit as if it was a fixed cost. So basically what we did was we took total revenue is equal to total cost plus this profit wedge, right? Where total revenue was revenue per visit times the number of visits is equal to the fixed cost plus the variable cost times the number of visits plus profit. But that works for a not-for-profit, NP, right? The problem with this is if we, ran through here and said, all right, what do we need to have so that we wind up with $100,000 after we pay all our costs? But then we'd have to pay taxes on top of it. So we have to increase that profit wedge by the amount of taxes that we're going to have to pay on it, right? Because this would get us pre-tax profit, right? But then that would be taxed. So how do we get a post-tax profit of 100,000? So let's just look at, you'll use this equation in, I want to say chapter 11 or 12, 11, I think it is, when we talk about muni bonds. But the after-tax value of the profit is going to be equal to the before-tax value of the profit times 1 minus the tax rate. So if we assume here it says it's a 30% tax rate, if we want an after-tax profit of 100,000, what would our profit wedge have to be up here, right? In terms of before taxes, in order to compensate for the 30% that the government's going to take in taxes. So this is equal to BT times 0.7, right? Because 1 minus 0.3 is 0.7. Divide both sides by 0.7. $100,000 divided by 0.7 gives us 142,857 and some change. I'm going to ignore the change. So we have to put a wedge not of 100,000 in our calculation, but of 142,000 and some change in order to get the appropriate volume. Okay, so we're going to plug all this stuff back into, using this equation. So that would be our revenue is $40 per visit. Our fixed costs are $257,500. Our variable costs per visit are $6 per visit. And then we have to include this 142,857 for our profit wedge. Okay, so consolidating terms, we get 36V, which is again our contribution margin, right? Is equal to 142 plus 257,500 gives us 400, 357. I'm just going to divide both sides by 36. And we get V. Hopefully you can see that. We get V is equal to 11,121. So the break-even volume is 11,121. Oops, made a mistake. Sorry. That's 40 minus 6 is actually 34 in the real world, not in my we're not operating in my imaginary world. So $34 per visit was our contribution margin, not 36. And so let me just recalculate that real quick. So it's 400 357 divided by 34, not 36, gives us 11,775. All right. So sorry about that little mistake, trying to do too many things in my head here. So remember, $40 per visit, $6 in variable costs. So 40 minus 6 gives us 34 per visit. Total fixed cost, fixed cost plus profit. So to figure out what we need for volume to get $100,000 in post-tax profit, we'd need 11,775 visits.